Greetings, fellow technicians. Rodamon here. Thank you for tuning in to Stationeer's Brutal Vulcan. Episode 44. Upgrading the Overtaxed Atmospherics. It's daytime. Well, if there was ever a time to do some quick furnacing, it would be daytime. So maybe I could take advantage of that. Do some quick mining. Using our regular tier 1 furnace rather than the arc furnace. So iron, copper, gold, I think, was the shopping list. And I'm not going to be able to be out long. I'm actually going to leave my suit overlay on. I should have cycled my waste tank before I even came out here, because it's already at 1,000. That was not smart. Silver? Come on. Where's my iron at? Here we go. Waste tank's at 2K. Don't have a... Oops. Didn't need that. Don't have a lot of time left out here. That's nickel. Here we go. More iron. Oh my god. The flow of air when I mine is like throwing me about. Because I'm creating such a vacuum as a result of the mining drill. Our waste tank's at 2.2K. At like 2.8K, I need to like start booking it inside. Alright, let's start processing this ore. It's not a lot, but it's a start. Before my lungs explode. Oh, Jesus. The vent is, like, throwing me about. Waste tank caution. I know, I know. Here, backpack. The frickin'... I've got a pretty big structure now? Yeah, that's what she said. Sorry, couldn't be helped. Ah! Stop throwing me around! Stupid vents. Alright, some basic smelting. I'm sure I'm gonna need more metals, but like, that was pretty quick, and I have 6% of my waste tank left. Yeehaw! Cutting it close. All right. So next step is to print up even more insulator pipes. I don't think I have any. And I need a purple master pipe because we decided purple is the color. So let's cycle into our vac room and get purple master color. Oh, thank you for the resub, by the way. Mr. Brody. .8 kilomole. Given our need for pressurant, I'm just going to let that keep going. 4 kilomole, 2 kilomole. Still haven't processed all the water. And also haven't used up all the fuel. Okay. We should have a decent amount of water in the system. That might be enough pipes, I don't know. How much water in the intake? 4 liters? Almost 5 liters? So now we have 21 liters total available to us. That's not bad. Actually, I probably need more than that. Hey, Poetic Artist. Welcome to the stream. And then this is the output. Okay. I don't think there's going to be any liquid output. I am considering... I'll hook up liquid output, even though I don't think I'm gonna need to. Better safe than exploded. So we want a passive vent, insulated passive vent for the gas output. I'll paint that purple as well, so give me purple, please. And then for liquid output, we'll want insulated liquid pipes. And then probably like a... what is the version of the drain? Maybe just a canister for the liquid? I don't want to like stick in a canister because that could explode. Pressurizing finite volume with an unknown source is a good recipe to explode and die. There's the liquid drain. I'll just do a liquid drain. And that'll work. I already have pollutant in the room. Doesn't really matter if I add a tiny bit more, so I'm just coloring it all in here. Okay, and everything is from here is done outside. So let's go outside and finish the build, finish the venting build, and then we just need some canisters. Actually, for the first batch, we don't even need canisters. All we need is a fuel. So let's do a trial run of making Stellite after this. The purple does look good. Another thing I wanted to check. It's probably just paranoia, but do we have enough? Oh yeah, 36 MPa of gas. Yeah, we're fine. All right, good. The what I was checking there is the Stirling system has like plenty of gas to work with. So, oh, there's my bread. Bye, bread. I think that's my first rot, by the way. All right, so there's the furnace's output gas. We just dump it to space. Or to Vulcan, I should say. It's not space. And then the liquid drain. Done. So now the furnace can expel stuff it doesn't want. Okay. There is more to be done with the advanced furnace, but before I invest more into it, I'm gonna run a proof of concept test run for it. So, in order to make Stellite, we need silicon, we need silver, and we need cobalt. So here's the recipe. And this recipe assumes you do not outgas them early. This recipe takes into consideration the outgassing of all the ores that are input. So no outgassing necessary. In fact, it's very important that if the inputs have gold or silver, that you leave it be, because that's combustible outgassing, which is needed to achieve the temperatures in its ratios. So we need 100 silicon of unoutgassed silicon. I know I have like a floor full of cobalt over there, but that's all outgassed cobalt. So that's not necessarily going to work for our purposes. So 100 silicon, 50 silver, and 50 cobalt. So I think there was silver over here. I spotted just a moment ago. Alright, I have plenty of propellant. That's good. So there's some cobalt. Or, sorry, silicon. And the silicon that's in my belt hasn't been outgassed yet, so the silicon in my belt is fine to use. So the current priority, I guess, is run a test of the furnace with Stellite. Sorry, the F gets truncated a little bit. Alright, so I got all the silicon I need. Now we're going for silver and cobalt. Easier would to find it during the day, but it also melts my face during the day, so. Lead, gold, copper. I know like a lot of these ores I need for other purposes, so not getting them now might seem a little weird. I'm just trying to stay focused. If I don't stay focused on specifically what I'm after, I'll like be mining for 20 minutes and end up not any closer making our first batch. All right, here's some cobalt. Oh, jeez. We only need 50 of this stuff. And yes, if you're wondering, I am not capturing any of the gases from the furnace. The reason being, typically, they're really high temperature, and like capturing gases from the furnace would require a cooling loop. You could pretty easily just like stick them in a giant tank with like some sort of overflow valve and like let them cool to ambient Vulcan temperatures. And like I'm happy to improve the system for an advanced furnace gas capture system like later on. That's just not version 1.0. Maybe version 2.0. Whoa, I'm glad I hit J in time. Just an absolute free fall. All right, so I have all the gases we need, or I'm sorry, I have all the ores that we need. So I'll separate them out. 100 silicon, 50 cobalt, and 50 silver. And that will form Stellite. And if you're wondering, Stellite is a material that is used in a whole bunch of the, you know, printings, so like rocketry, terraforming, security tools. You know, if I wanted to make, for instance, a harm suit, harm suits have stellite and astroloy. A harm suit would be like a suit that could handle the high temperatures of Vulcan. So that would be a really nice you know, thing to make. You know, a whole bunch of other things require the super alloys. The super alloys are the end tier, the end game alloys, so it's gonna be nice to have. Alright. The other thing for the batch process is I need to make sure that there's enough fuel in the mixed fuel, which there currently isn't any. So I'm going to turn off the water production. Now, at some point, automating this to turn on this gas mixer to keep the pressure in this pipe network between, let's say, 5 and 10 MPa, like, would make sense so that I'm always producing fuel on demand. But again, that is a different project, out of scope with what we're currently working on. Sandcurve, thank you for the resub. And cheers. All right. So now we can turn on and make sure that the inputs and outputs are at 0. Pressure regulate this to 3600 kPa of fuel. I don't need to double check it's fuel. Like, I know it's fuel, but double checking anyway. It is fuel. Stick in any one of these ports, doesn't matter which. What ends up happening is it will fill the whole volume. So half of it went to the pipe network, half of it's in here still. Then, and I know I'm in a realm with a tiny bit of pollutant, but this is a pretty good indicator of like how the advanced furnace affects the surrounding atmosphere. So I think it was actually important to leave this in here. I feel like there's a leak though, because my pollutant is like disappearing, but I'm not making it disappear. So I'm not really sure where it's going, but I digress. So input, raise the input up to anything above 0. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull gas from its input port, because it has essentially a built-in volume pump in the input. And we just want to pull all the gas. And maybe a better system here would be to have pipe meters and the like, so that I can stand here and check that the input gas is empty, you know, or whatever. But for now, it's tablet mode. And if you wanted to go really, really, really fast, you could just input or raise up the volume pump. And basically, we just want to do this until it's not empty. So all of the gas that was in this canister and in this pipe is gone, and it is now in the advanced furnace. So as you can see, the advanced furnace is it's got all the volatiles. At this point, we can pull the canister and put it back into the fuel line, and that's why it's color-coded. So this is what I was referring to before. The reason why you might want a volume pump to feed the gas back into the fuel line up there, well, it's not fuel, but is this immediately got pressurized to 2 kPa or 2 MPa, because the canisters hold a certain volume, the pipe holds a certain volume. So if I had this really pressurized, I couldn't lower the volume here, which means volume pump here to feed back. Same with the coolant, same with the the CO2 line would be smart, as I mentioned. All right, so now that that's done, next thing we want to do is to start doing the material feed. And I'm actually going to put the silver in last. So put in the cobalt and hit activate. Activate sparks the fuel, so it combusts. It's now heating up. And it is pressurizing. And the reason, it doesn't really matter doing silver last, but the reason to do silver last is silver will outgas nitrous oxide, which then will combust. And you can kind of see the temperatures and pressures here. And again, Stellite ingots need to be anywhere between 10 and 20 MPa and higher than 1500 Celsius. Basically, because you're never going to really achieve that. That's just like upper limit ridiculousness. So higher than 1527. And putting the silver in is going to definitely achieve that, because all of that NOS is going to go kaboolamo. Then we take a look. As you can see, it's heating up as the nitrous oxide combusts. And now, that's Stellite. Cha-ching! And up pops 50 grams of Stellite. Yes, I put in 200 grams of stuff and got 50 grams of Stellite, but that's just how it works. And then, there is 364 moles of nitrogen in here. I'm going to turn off the furnace and ask you guys if you want me to recapture this. Should I capture the advanced furnace output gas? If you think it's worth it. If you don't, it's fine. So here's a quick poll. And the way I would do it is stuff all the gas from the outflow vent into a giant insulated tank and like with some sort of gas radiator to let it cool down to ambient temperature. And then once it was cooled down to ambient temperature, I could like feed it to my filters. Because obviously I'm not going to want nitrogen gas that is 1400 Celsius, because it would take forever for that to cool down. I would kill my soybeans. It would not be worth recapturing. With that said, there's no real point in recapturing anything but the nitrogen, if I'm honest. Right? Because the nitrous oxide and the oxygen is going to combust, so there's going to be millimoles of it left. And pollutant volatiles and CO2 are common enough that they're not worth recapturing. So what might make sense is to have an atmospheric filter the nitrogen into a holding tank, which then can be cooled or something. I don't know. But there you go. That's the system. I got my Stellite. That's how it works. Glad it worked. And it looks like you guys want me to capture the output gas. Okay. Set up nitrogen output gas cap. That's going to be my next mini project. So, there's a few different ways of doing this I was thinking about just now. One of the things I was planning on doing is potentially upgrading my atmospherics system so that I can equalize temperatures between the coolant and the gases I want faster. So I know that that's a little confusing, but let me try to explain. I'll just show you. So currently as the system is, we need more or less a constant flow of CO2 coming in to be able to feed the farm. And we need a relatively constant flow of volatiles coming in to produce water and fuel for the furnace now. And oxygen is coming in from the farm as well. These... Here, let me pull in some more volatiles. These, so this is a coolant loop where we have 4 air conditioners creating CO2 gas at room temperature to then be able to cool down the input gases for volatiles, oxygen, and CO2. And mostly it's CO2 and volatiles, which will be hot because they're pulled in from essentially atmosphere, which is hot. So one of the ways I could do a nitrous gas cap is to feed the nitrogen into here directly into our regular old nitrogen filter, and everything else that isn't nitrogen just gets dumped to space and capture the nitrogen, and then put the nitrogen through its own coolant loop. Now here is the caveat. If I did this, I would want to upgrade my atmospheric gas temperature system. I want to upgrade it. And what that would look like, if you were wondering, is I would, so at the moment, each one of these direct gas-to-gas converters, these are the small, what are they called? The small direct heat exchangers. The small gas-to-gas heat exchangers equalize slowly, right? If I wanted to upgrade this system, because the CO2, volatiles, and potentially the nitrogen are going to be superheated, I would want either a large direct gas-to-gas heat exchanger or a super large. What is the volume of the super large? Hold one second. I gotta look that up. Direct, super large, direct heat. I don't even know how big it is. It's the wiki's not even telling me. But what I would want to do, and why this is important. Here's the why this is important. In order for me to actively make fuel, oxygen and volatiles need to be basically the same temperature. Because if they're not the same temperature, I'm mixing them in the wrong ratios. So as I pull in new volatiles from the atmosphere, the temp here is rising, and this heat exchanger can't keep up with the rising temps. Meaning that if I turned on my gas mixer right now, I'm mixing oxygen at 21 and volatiles at 38, and I'm not going to get a 2-to-1 ratio. So it's not going to be a good burn, in other words. Which is why this whole system is completely manual. Because I need to take temperatures first. So why I'm asking you is there's 2 ways to do this nitrogen cap. One is to use the atmospheric filter that we already have and run it through a large or super large heat exchanger so that it can exchange heat and I don't really have to worry about the temperatures because it will always basically be the temperature of my coolant loop. Because I don't really care if my coolant loop gets hot as long as all the gases connected to it are the same temperature. It's basically the same temperature is more important than the coolant loop being cool. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to stick the nitrogen in a holding tank, let it cool down passively with some sort of volume pump for me to pull it in batches into this filter. So batch it where there's a volume pump that feeds into this pipe network, that I can do it in smaller batches. I would still say eventually, if I'm trying to make fuel regularly, I need to improve my atmospheric coolants loop. But how do you want me to handle it? How to handle the nitrogen. Add it to the coolant loop, or store it and do it in batches. Personally, I think adding it to the coolant loop and actually upgrading your coolant loop is the better play, but it would require more work right now. Because I would need to expand the base, and it would delay other projects. But it's probably the right way to do it. And what I'd be doing is making the large direct heat exchangers, which requires Invar, and it requires a lot of Invar. So I'll probably be making batches of Invar as well, I suspect. What is Invar temperature-wise? Oh, I can do Invar midday. It'd be a little... I would probably need to combust something. Pull in midday gas, cook up a bunch of silver, and then put the Invar in. I don't know. I could think about it. But here is the size of the direct gas to gas, and here's the super large. Super large might be overkill. Can't I just heat exchange the oxygen vols directly? I could. That could be another way to do it, is to heat exchange, have a super large heat exchanger between the oxygen vols so they normalize. But I'd rather have all my gases at the same temperature, because I still have CO2 heat creep, which could, if I ever automate the farm, kill my farm. because if I'm not carefully measuring how hot the CO2 is coming in, and I'm pulling the CO2 from atmosphere, this CO2 could creep up. It isn't creeping up now because I'm not actually pulling it in because this filter died. But it could accidentally pull in carbon dioxide into the farm that kills the farm. So it looks like added to the coolant loop is going to be a popular option. So for right now, what I'm going to do is take a quick pause on the whole advanced furnace thing and upgrade atmospherics. So in order to do that, I need to add 3 walls to the back here because we're going to need more room. What size heat exchanger? Large or super large? Super large might be overkill. Large might be underkill. I don't really have measurements for these, but you can decide. Super large makes it a little bit more expensive, but like I'm totally fine with that. If that's the route you want me to go, it's no problem. It would require more base room, but like I've got oxygen and carbon dioxide to add volume to this base, so I'm not really worried about base pressure changing. It's not a factor. Plus, I could design this project in like a neat way. So the super larges are this big. They're like a 2x1 in terms of frame size. And what I could do is I could stack them. I could have like a cooling tower. You know, like I'm some sort of nuclear power plant or something. That's just like a fun way to design it. Instead of going horizontal, I could go vertical. Although that does mean using propellant indoors, but like, I'm chill with that too. Could I move it on the top of the base? I could, but I don't want to. So what am I making here? Flat walls? And then I'm going to need 2 wall kits. It looks like super larges. So I also have to make a batch of Invar. Like an extra large batch of Invar, I think. Sheet. Alright, so print up 2 plastic sheets. With the 0 silicon I loaded in. I am using CO2 for my jetpack, so it'd be fine. It's not going to be a problem. You're right. Glass. And why I'm printing up these walls is you'll see in a moment. So let's put the heat exchangers away for now, because I don't need to be installing them at the moment. So I want to expand the base out 1 and maybe up. So let's do... Actually, I'll do out 2 and then up. I want a little bit more space in the base. I think at some point, I need to improve the way I generate water, which means like a lot more ace... Why is this... Oh, because I turned it off. Yeah. I don't think I was actually done making... Yeah, turn that on, actually. I had burned up all the fuel... But I hadn't finished making the steam. I can't even read how... another 4 liters? For 25 liters of water available? Alright. So the other part of this was going to the farm and creating the other wall on the inside of the farm. That's why I have these wall kits. So I can expand the base. Because... they, you know, it'd be a problem here too, right? Okay. So the plan is to go back 2 and then up 4. 4, maybe? Which is completely overkill, but I kind of love it. So that's 10 frames, or so 2 by 4, like 16 frames, steel frames, something like that. Because it's a... Actually, it'd be a 2 by 2 by 4. Yeah. Something like that. That could be off. No, I'm doing a 2 by 2 by 4, not a 2 by 3 by 4. Is it 3? I thought I was going back to... I can't even visualize it right now. I'm going to get 28 sheets total, and just this will be the start of the project, because part of it is also like pulling the walls off. Oh, nice. My tools have pretty fresh batteries. That's good. Probably need to push more CO2 into the farm before I go endeavor on this project. So, I mentioned this before, but one of the reasons why I haven't really started to do, like, mega projects, but instead, like, smaller projects in batches, is, if I did do a mega project, there's just too much regular maintenance. For, like, fiddling with atmospherics, filling up CO2 and volatiles, batching water, etc. That, like, it diverts my attention. So I would like to automate a lot of these sort of chores before I consider, you know, taking on, like, rocketry or whatever. I'm just going to leave that outflow vent on, because it's only going to go up to 101. And as long as we have CO2 coming in, that isn't super hot. It's 35. It's not going to kill the plants, but the plants aren't going to be super happy. Alright, so let's go ahead and start the framework for the atmospherics. So that's these two walls here. And these 3 walls here. Oh yeah, because it's 3 wide. Yeah, I see. Why you said 2 by 3 by 3. Or 2 by 3 by 4. I'm probably going to change it to be 2 wide. No, I'll probably want that 3rd spot. For plumbing reasons. Yeah, I'll just go big. There goes the charge on this thing. So what part of atmospherics do I need to automate? Well, this project actually helps me automate CO2 and volatile input. The issue that I was having now is if I automated pulling in volatiles and CO2 into the base, they would become unreasonably hot and cause problems as a result. And by upgrading the atmospheric coolant loop, I can avoid that, which is going to help to improve the system as a whole. Where to put my... There it is. A little sketchy to be in an unwelded frame, welding frames. Good way to clean yourself. And I might as well just start flat walling. I'll need a lot more flat walls than I currently have available to me, but rather than putting these back into storage only to haul them back out, we'll just start flat walling. So, I need 4 here, and then 2 by 3 by 2, I think. So 4 plus 2 by 3 by 2. Ooh, 88 days without dying. Nice. No, I don't think there's anything I'm going to want to buy off the vendor, so I'm not going to go bother with that. $16 more frames. Oh, whoops. I put my mining tool in the wrong thing. Thank you for tuning in to Stationeers Brutal Vulcan, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhodamont.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you'd like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhodamont.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow Vulcanites.